The U.S. president is a mature politician, more than just mature, an experienced politician. He is in office for the second time and knows what he is doing, I believe. We are ready to continue negotiations and discuss all the details and all our terms, if not the agreements themselves, then at least the issues discussed in Anchorage. It is true that no agreements were reached in Anchorage. I would like to start with something else. The point you raised about European leaders having changed the mind of the U.S. President Donald Trump regarding the events unfolding in Ukraine. I am not aware of anything of the sort. I doubt that this is possible, bearing in mind that, after all, the U.S. President is a mature politician, more than just mature, an experienced politician. He is in office for the second time and knows what he is doing, I believe. Well, I suppose we're all human. We all listen to our own people, our opponents, and our allies. We take their views on board and may adjust our own perspective to some extent, but not to the point of being completely persuaded. In any case, I am not aware of anything like that as yet. I know nothing about it. What's more, although this so-called spirit of Anchorage was not set out in any formal documents, no one signed anything, but we did discuss certain possibilities for bringing the conflict in Ukraine to an end. And the compromises that were discussed were the proposals put forward to us by the American side. We were asked to make compromises as formulated by the American negotiators. We agreed. So what else is there? We were asked to make compromises. We thought about it, not straight away, but we traveled to Anchorage and said, yes, we agree. We have heard no other position from the American side, from the U.S. administration. We are expecting, once all the events and the critical phase on the Iranian track have concluded, the arrival of those representatives of the U.S. administration with whom we have already met on several occasions in Moscow. We are ready to continue negotiations and discuss all the details and all our terms, if not the agreements themselves, then at least the issues discussed in Anchorage. It is a cause for concern when rude shouts are heard from the outside. This does not cause any panic on the part of President Lukashenko. He approaches this very calmly, with composure and a level head. We are grateful to him for the efforts Alexander Grigorievich is making in this regard, particularly with regard to resolving humanitarian issues, specifically the exchange of prisoners of war. As we recall, negotiations began in Minsk back in 2022. Subsequently, at the suggestion of the Ukrainian side, we moved to Istanbul, but it was in Minsk that agreements were concluded to settle relations between Kyiv and Donetsk. Unfortunately, we now know for certain that neither the Ukrainian side nor our Western negotiating partners had any intention of honoring these agreements. But that is another matter. What is important is that Belarus has always provided us with its territory, its venue for holding negotiations. I am confident that if negotiations are ever required, we will be able to make use of these same facilities in Belarus. I am aware of Alexander Grigorievich's position. He is prepared to support in every way possible any efforts aimed at resolving contentious issues by peaceful means.
All things considered, how did the negotiations go?
We spent a day, or even a little longer, talking with him in an informal setting. Not just the two of us, but the three of us. I invited the Russian Prime Minister, Mikhail Vladimirovich Mishustin. We discussed first and foremost economic issues and cooperation in various fields, energy, industry, and other areas. We also spoke about humanitarian cooperation. It was a very successful and fruitful visit.
Our media, internet sources, war correspondent provide very comprehensive and objective information on this matter. Let us start with the northern group of forces. Let me remind you that the goal for Russian troops in the Sumy and Volchansk directions is to create a security zone along our borders. This task was set after Ukraine's invasion of the Kursk region and continuing attacks on our border areas. The Ukrainian regime will pay for its crimes incurred with the loss of territory that we need to create a security zone in the border areas. About 10.5 kilometers remain to the city of Sumy Regional Center, a small city with over 30,000 buildings. This is a regional center, as I said, with 30,000 houses. We have no political plans regarding the city and the region as a whole. We will be guided by the proposals of the Defense Ministry and the General Staff. Troops in this direction are conducting combat missions actively, decisively, advancing at a rapid pace. Let's move on, from north to south, and speak about the western group of forces. It is a large area of responsibility. I will begin with the city of Kupiansk, in front of whose monument representatives of the Kiev regime like to pose for photos. Our troops are located between 2.5 and 4 to 5 kilometers from the western edge of the city. The enemy has already launched a series of counterattacks, but without success. The settlement of Rupsi, the Rupsovskoy direction, on the left bank of the Stary Oskol River, we have effectively blocked a motley enemy grouping of about 5,000 people. It is pinned down against the river. The 1st Tank Army of the Russian Armed Forces is advancing from the north and closing in on the enemy. The 3rd Motorized Rifle Division is advancing from the east, and the 144th Division from the south. There are about 2 kilometers left until complete, final encirclement. Everything there is already under fire control. This 144th Division is tasked with accomplishing this task, and I believe it will succeed. And then the fate of this enemy grouping will be similar to the one that already was in the area of Kupiansk-Uzovoy. And, if you recall, the group there, which was in roughly the same position, was completely wiped out. Next is the town of Krasny Lyman. This is a Krasnoliman sector. It is a fairly large settlement, a town with around 11,000 homes. But that is not the point. The point is that it is one of the largest railway marshalling yards in the former Soviet Union and the most important logistics center in the DPR. Here, 149 out of 11,000 houses remain to be liberated. Now let me remind you of one more thing. The Ukrainian armed forces spent nearly 10 years building a major fortified area as a strategic defensive line in the conurbation comprising the towns of Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Druzhkovka, Alexeyevo-Druzhkovka, and the town of Konstantinovka, as well as just southwest of the towns of Dobropolye and Okoretino. All of this lies within the area of responsibility of the southern and central groups of forces. The 3rd Army of the Southern Group is advancing at a good pace towards the town of Slavyansk and has entered the village of Nikolaevka. It is approximately 8 to 9 kilometers from Slavyansk itself. The offensive is proceeding successfully across 15 sectors, with our troops advancing in this direction every day. Significant developments have taken place in the area of responsibility of the Central Group. Hey, our troops have breached a 3-tier line of engineering obstacles, approximately 400 meters deep, across 4 sectors and are engaged in fighting to capture the defensive line. Very significant developments have also taken place on the Dobropolye front. On the Dobropolye front, our troops have breached a well-prepared 3-row line of engineering obstacles previously considered impregnable and have entered the village of Anovka, which neighbors Dobropolye. They have also advanced directly towards the town of Dobropolye from the north. Outside Dobropolye, and I would like to draw your attention to this, the Ukrainian armed forces have no pre-prepared defensive lines. They are now trying to hastily establish local strongpoints, whilst the distance from Dobropolye to the state border is 35 kilometers. We can now turn our attention back to the combat operations of the southern group of forces, which is fighting to liberate one of the most important strongholds on the Ukrainian armed forces' strategic defensive line, in the town of Konstantinovka. 96% of the town is now under Russian control. The 4th Brigade is mopping up the town, whilst the 6th Division of the Southern Group has already bypassed Konstantinovka and reached Alexeyevo-Druzhkovka, entered the town, taken Tukhachevsky Street, and is moving on. Our forces on the left flank have also reached this settlement, Alexeyevo-Druzhkovka. Next will be Druzhkovka itself, a fairly large settlement with 12,000 homes, which adjoins Alexeyevo-Druzhkovka. It is only 4 kilometers from Druzhkovka to Kramatorsk, which the current authorities in Kiev regard as the temporary capital of Donetsk, and there are no significant fortifications there either. As far as we know, and as has already been reported in the media, the enemy has begun evacuating industrial enterprises from this conurbation. I would also like to highlight a particular operation carried out by the Eastern Group of Forces. Despite the enemy's reinforced offenses, the enemy has redeployed troops from the Donetsk People's Republic, well-trained troops, to the Zaporizhzhia sector. Here our troops, under the command of Colonel General Andrei Sergeyevich Ivaniev, are carrying out combat missions to liberate the Zaporizhzhia region. Across a broad front, they are advancing between 1 kilometer and 1.3 kilometers daily. The Dnieper group of forces also has a large area of responsibility. It is fighting successfully in the Orakov direction and is operating along the shore of the Kakolka Reservoir, generally towards Zaporizhzhia.